Wow, it's a perfect day to tell my story. It's January 5th, I think. 5th or 6th. I'm not sure. But it's the first snow. And to get good light, I'm sitting here by my door and you can just see it coming down. And there's something about that quiet that snow brings. There's, I don't know, there's like there's a melancholy to it in a way. And I've reached a point in my life where I don't have to put a reason to that feeling. It's just, I don't know, maybe it could, with trauma, the book, The Body Keeps the Score, and that's really true, but there doesn't necessarily have to be a reason. It's just quiet and it's calm. And this time of the year, it's really a great time to kind of withdraw your energy a little bit and pull back and reflect. So, yeah, it's a little melancholy. But so I was born in a little rural town called Pikeville, Kentucky, in the eastern part of Kentucky, and like 3 states come together right there. And my family is like, they're so much fun. So when I was growing up, and they're boisterous, most of them drink a lot. So I saw a lot of partying, a lot of fighting, a lot of, interesting behavior as a child. We would have like a lot of people at my mom's house on Friday nights, and like the men in my family, they would have wives, but then late at night when they'd be at my folks' house, they would have women with them, but it wouldn't be their wives. And so you'll hear me a lot if you follow my stories and my content, and especially if you're in any of my courses, you'll hear me talk a lot about mirroring and conditioning. So what was mirrored to me was that men have wives and girlfriends. And here's the deal, it wasn't just men, it was the men that I adored. The men that I looked up to, the men that I wanted to have favor with, the men that I thought this was the 70s, so like they were the cool cats, with the bell bottoms and the big belt buckles and the feathered back John Travolta hair. Yeah. Not that my hair's not kind of like that, whatever. That shit looks good, y'all. So I developed a belief that men that you love may have other women. You may not be the only one. And then it was interesting, though, because, see, my dad wasn't like that. My dad was like straight arrow, didn't drink. He was in the family and whatever, and he liked the uncles too. But my dad didn't go in for any of that. He is not Mr. Charismatic or personality plus dude at all. And so I grew up with thinking that there were 2 ways that men were. They were either super charismatic, romantic and charming and good looking and everything you wanted, but you couldn't be the only one. Or they were like my dad, like real stone face, not very charismatic, not super fun, but they were like true blue and loyal. So I didn't have any, when I was growing up, I didn't have any other examples. Even now that I think about it, like my mom's friends were that way too. Yeah. So oftentimes when we grow up, I digress. Also, if you follow me, you'll get to know I have ADHD. And also, just a little side note, when you have trauma and ADHD together, and I'm not so sure that things from your childhood, you don't develop ADHD, you know, your parts of your brain stop functioning as well. So a lot of times my thoughts will trail off, and that is attributed to, I mean, I don't attribute it to it. I know the science that can be part of embodied trauma. So when that starts happening a lot, I actually know it's a great marker for me to say, oh shit, what do I need to work on? What's triggering me? Even if I'm not activated or don't seem activated. So anyway, okay. Where was I? Oh, whatever's mirrored to you, like when you grow up with a fear of rejection or a fear of abandonment or a people pleaser, you will at the subconscious level seek abandoners. You'll seek people to reject you. You will seek people that will turn away from you if you don't please them. And this is, oh cute, there's a little squirrel out there hopping around in the snow. You'll seek that, and so stay with me here, because that's what the ego is, that sense of self. Like, that's the part of you that that's trying to stay present, trying to be seen, like, hey, this is who I am, you know. And it's the very thing that you're scared to death of is the very thing that actually, it's who you become. It's who your sense of self is. I mean, I would never, like on a dating profile, but you know, nobody does. Hey, I have a fear of abandonment, so I need to preserve my sense of self at all costs. So if you have a history of abandoning people, I'm gonna need you. I'm gonna really need you to, you know, come seek me out. But in actuality, and it's funny, not funny though, but in actuality, that's kind of what we do, y'all. It is. It's what we do. So, I was married once in 91, and then I got divorced very quickly. This was just an effort of seeking security really quick. And then you know what happened? Me having a fear of abandonment and rejection. So what did I do? I abandoned him before he could abandon me. Yeah, I just wanted the big wedding, and I was seeking that security and safety, but I wasn't mature. I was 21 years old, I think. Yeah, so I wasn't mature. And then I started dating a man who I fell deeply in love with. And it was great because he was the part of me that I needed. You know, he was the perfect trauma bond. He was popular. Everybody liked him. He was the main dude. And so then when I'm dating, you know, it's like dating the football star, it was the bartender. So that gives me, you know, the street cred. Like, yeah, she's cool, he's cool, she's cool. So, and by this time though, you all, where I had grown up in a whole lot of dysfunction, I began to drink in my teenage years, and a lot of alcoholism in my family, and I was no exception. I think I was predisposed at birth to become an alcoholic. So yeah, by the time I met Jeffrey, I was working on a really good alcohol problem, and actually edit that out. By the time I met the father of my children, my now ex-husband, I was working on a really, really good alcohol problem. And since that I never had a great tolerance for alcohol, I also found powder cocaine, which, boom. Man, you are off to the races. And there are going to be consequences left and fucking right. So we had our daughter, and I did not mold, just move into being, all of a sudden I'm married and got kids. I didn't, addicts and alcoholics, you don't just all of a sudden, oh, wait, no, alcoholism on hold. No. So I'm an alcoholic mom. Yeah. I did not drink with my daughter while I was pregnant, but there was no stability. And Jeffrey was trying to manage that, and he didn't, oh wait, sorry, I may do that a couple times. Y'all edit that out too. So my ex-husband, that was very jarring to him, that kind of being sick and not accountable and not being a good mom. Well, that gave rise to his maladaptive behaviors, and so he ended up taking a mistress for the last 4 years of our relationship. And that even further reinforced the men that you love. Do you see that? The men that you love cheat on you. And ain't nothing you can do about it. That's just it. That was my deepest belief. So when we were getting divorced, I got pregnant with our second child. And so thank goodness for that second child, because I didn't drink during my pregnancy with him either, and I would have more than likely drank myself to death. I always say that Jackson is my angel baby. He saved my life in many, many ways. And so did my daughter, but that pregnancy in that moment of despair. And, the thing about it though, Jackson's now 17, and later on in life, I really want to help him heal, because when your mother has such despair when you're in utero, that energy transfers, and that's a total side note, and I'll talk about that later. But, so I got sober in January 30th, as I'm filming this video. My 11-year sober birthday is this month. So that's really exciting. But just because I got sober, it didn't mean that all of a sudden, woohoo, I'm going to have great relationships. Hell no. I still had the embodied self-conscious belief that the men you love cheat. You got to please them. You cannot stand for what you want. You have to just kind of play along. And then I ended up getting in a relationship that was very, very abusive. He was also alcoholic and hid it. I would see signs of it, but, I wanted to believe that he loved me and he was great and somehow this was going to be better. Bullshit. This was subconscious beliefs, getting in a fantasy in my head. There was no evidence of that. There was only the fantasy in my head and my subconscious beliefs that the men that love you and that you love cheat on you, and that held true in that too. So that was my first experience with somebody who gaslighted me, and it was brutal. It really made me think I was crazy and that everything was my issue. So but that was an experience that the universe it needed to show me so that I would know. And each one of these, I start getting better. And then the next relationship that I had, because after that relationship, I was like, okay, in sobriety, in recovery, in 12-step programs anyway, we have a saying. One of our tenets is, if I'm disturbed, I'm disturbed. My problem is always the woman in the mirror. It's not my dad. It's not my ex-husband. It's not the men who I've dated. It's not my friends. It's not even alcohol is but a symptom of what's wrong with me. It is an inability to see things clearly and live a spiritual life. And that a lot of that comes from childhood trauma and conditioning, you know. So after that relationship, I started cluing into, oh, this has to be a me problem. You know, this has to be this got to be about me. So I got into a relationship with a man who I felt like would be safe. We moved from friends, been friends for 25 years. He was also in the program. And I saw the signs that he was having problems. He had some personal issues and professional issues that were really not going to be great for him. And 6 months into our relationship, I moved me and my son and I into his home. And 6 months into our relationship, he died by suicide. And that was the start of me getting better. And it's, you know, Matt saved me in a lot of ways. You know, he left and he transitioned into non-physical reality, if you're, you know, spiritual, law of attraction, metaphysical. You know, that saved me, because that forced me to say, hey, that's if you keep fucking around with dysfunctional relationships and people, you could drink again, you could use drugs again, and that's sure death. You're for sure. Yeah, you're fucked. So, you know, that grief brought up all kinds of grief. It brought that grief back about losing my family, my marriage. Brought the grief back about my dad, my stepdad. So, and I got sober in 2011, and 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So 6 years later, the universe is saying, you have to look at this. You have to learn. It's time to learn. And I kept getting, so I got great intuition. I became a coach. I became a yoga teacher too, but that was before that. But I became a coach, and I began to dig into, okay, how is it that I can stay sober one day at a time? I can see myself so clearly, but I cannot see other people, because I wasn't seeing myself clearly. I didn't know anything about trauma and subconscious patterning. And if I did know about it, maybe on some level I did know about it, but I knew that shit was going to be painful digging into that. I did. So it became my business to want to help other women, because I knew my story. You all, I had spent thousands of dollars trying to find a healthy love, and like, I would loan men money, I would go on vacations, I would buy vacations, I would buy new clothes, and trying to do all of this shit to get love. When I didn't even know, I at that point, I really couldn't have done that, because I didn't know what was blocking me. The only love that I could have drawn in, and that I did draw in, was trauma bond after trauma bond after trauma bond. So I met this man, and I knew that I didn't want to fall in love, but I knew that I was ready to have some serious, like, soul-searching, triggered my ass off growth. And I began to study neuroplasticity and neuroscience, and like, why was it that every coping, anytime I needed to cope, I reached for a drink, and now I don't now. That energy doesn't even flow. My energy doesn't even flow like that. It's never even a thought. And I was a hardcore, piss your pants, drunk, call the dope man, alcoholic. That's who I am. And that never occurs to me. Like, I never, at this point in my recovery, I don't even romance it anymore. But so I began to backtrack in my own, I did, like this relationship inventory, and began to do these, uncover the patterns. And then I started reading about hypnosis and how to bring your subconscious forward. Another coach, her name is Lacey Peterson, does this. Joe Dispenza does this. Several, I have Marissa Peer, and then I have a personal coach friend, Erin Astley. She does rapid transformational therapy, and it's just so, that's just what I began to do. And through repetition, through hypnosis, and reprogramming, and then reinforcing the new thought, I became different. And that, I did that through like my rock bottom when I was drinking. Like, immediately the obsession was lifted because of trauma after trauma, and then the rock bottom, and like your mind splits and you immediately change. It was like a spiritual phenomenon too, you all. I don't know. But bad relationships, I didn't equate them to alcohol, like alcohol will kill you, drugs and alcohol kill you. But finally I did start equating them, because I was like, if I don't learn this completely, if I don't completely change the way, the neural pathways in my brain, like I did with alcohol, drugs, and cigarettes, I could relapse over this. Yeah. So every day I began to write down my patterns and go into a subconscious, to go into hypnosis, bring my subconscious forward and reprogram that, and then reinforce the new programming. And the last relationship I was in, it was a really healthy relationship. But because of my continued new programming, we wanted different things. And then I began to learn about attachment styles. And I talk about that a lot. I will be talking about it a lot in my course, The Love School, and teaching you about it, and teaching you how to heal your attachment style, because you want to have a secure attachment style. And my last partner, he had an avoidant attachment style, so they desire intimacy, but they keep pushing it away. And so the fact that we had a long distance relationship, and that it could stay that way, and the sex was great, we had a lot of fun, we laughed all the time, and he bought me tons of gifts, and everything was great. But I had finally learned that what the law of attraction is a total sense of authentic wholeness and worthiness. It's like all of me, the good, the bad, the ugly, the perky boobs, the flat ass. Not fat ass, the flat ass. The 53-year-old tummy that sometimes is, really cool, and then sometimes during COVID it gains 27 pounds. And then showing up with every single bit of that. But see you all now. I don't know where I was. Okay, but anyway, Kevin. Edit that out. But anyway, so my last partner, I realized I had such a sense of self-worth at that point that I was able to look at him and say, hey, either you start doing the work to heal your avoidant attachment, you have a better relationship with my son, you stop judging the shit out of me, and we get married, or we're done. And he said no, and we were done. And because of all the work I've done, I'm so fine with that. And now you all, oh my God, going into launching the Love School, I am dating again, and here's the place of healing where I'm so excited to be. I'm not freaking out waiting on my love. I feel their presence, his presence so much. It's like I already know him. It's like I'm already married to him. It's like I'm already, spending his money. No, I'm teasing. But it's like that he's already here. That's how confident I am. That's what kind of energy I'm leading with. And that's what I teach women. And my client